Hello there. This time last week in the farming forecast, Chris was talking about Tropical Storm Barry, which threatened to bring quite a bit of rain across some of the southern states of the US that border the Gulf of Mexico. It did bring a lot of rain to Louisiana, and in fact the state of Arkansas saw its highest ever recorded amount of rain, 16.59 inches, from any landfalling tropical cyclone. So record breaking in that respect. It briefly touched Category 1 hurricane before it made landfall, but luckily most of the crops weren't affected by either the heavy rains or the storm surge, because most of them are actually grown a little bit further north away from where Barry was affecting. And actually across the southeastern states we've had some recent showers and thunderstorms here that have benefited the summer crops as well. Now moving further south into Brazil, and it's been often warm and dry weather that's been promoting the wheat development and corn harvesting down here. And also in Australia it continues to be very dry across the north and the parts of the east, but we have seen a little bit more rain recently, which has been improving the winter wheat crop there as well. Closer to home across Europe, of course, we had that heat wave at the end of June, which significantly affected some of the crop with heat stress, but recently it's been a bit cooler, a bit wetter, and so things have been somewhat improved in that respect, and the crops can relax a little bit somewhat. But it is about to change. It is going to turn hotter again as we head deeper on into the next 7 to 10 days or so. More on that in a moment, but in the shorter term across the UK, this is the amount of rain we've had estimated by using the rainfall radar from the 1st to the 15th of July. So this was until Monday, and you can see quite clearly across southern areas here, not a single drop of rain where it's white, as you can see on the key here, 0 millimetres where you see white on the map. Very wet though, close to 100 millimetres in some places in the north and the west of Scotland. However, in the last 3 to 4 days to end the week, we have seen finally a bit of rain pushing in from the west, so things have improved quite a bit across the southwest, 15 to 20 millimetres in places here. But notice Kent and Sussex at the time of recording on Friday afternoon, still hardly any rain at all, but I suspect that will change this coming night, Friday night into Saturday morning, with some heavy and possibly thundery rain expected here as well. Looking at the bigger picture at the jet stream, the reason why it's turned a bit more unsettled is because the jet stream is sliding in from the west, bringing us some areas of low pressure, some rain showers and some thunderstorms in places over the next couple of days. But watch as I run this animation through how it starts to move north through the weekend and on into next week, and that's going to allow a big area of high pressure to develop across much of Western Europe, which will influence much of the UK as well. Towards middle of next week, this dip, this trough in the jet stream starts to push in from the southwest, and the lift from that jet stream may encourage some thunderstorm activity towards the middle part of the coming week, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. Looking at the air mass, this is crucial for the next 7 days or so. A lot of hot air developing across Africa and across Spain and Portugal, and that will start to push northwards into Western Europe as we go on through into next week, and also getting into the UK around Tuesday, Wednesday time. So another heat wave expected across a good chunk of Western and Central Europe over the next 7 to 10 days. Not good news for crops, of course. The soil moisture is still very much below average across the northern half of France into the Low Countries too. And it looks likely at some point next week parts of France and indeed Spain could well see temperatures up to 42, 43 degrees or so. So very hot conditions here. Not good, as I say, for crops. Last heat wave we saw some vineyards being severely impacted by the heat, and that's certainly a possibility again with this heat wave coming up in the next 7 to 10 days. So what is going on rainfall wise? Well, we've got this area of low pressure to the north of the UK on Saturday. That rain overnight clearing away first thing Saturday morning. We'll see some scattered showers developing as we go through Saturday afternoon. So there'll be some heavy showers around, the odd rumble of thunder, that sort of thing, across many areas of the British Isles on Saturday daytime. Then as we run through Sunday, that all clears away, and notice how this high pressure starts to build in from the south. So much of England, Wales through Sunday, Monday and Tuesday will be dry and gradually warming up with time. Weather fronts, though, continue to affect the northwest of the UK, and parts of western Scotland could see as much as 100 millimetres of rain or so over the coming days, with this weather front continuing to pile moisture onto those western upslopes. Now, by the middle of next week, high pressure off to the east, so a southeasterly wind will start to drag in that very hot air from the continent towards the UK. So temperatures will be climbing day on day as we go deeper on into next week. Now I showed you that dip in the jet stream, that trough coming in towards midweek, and you can see a little area of low pressure developing over the Bay of Biscay around Wednesday time, and as that feeds northwards we could well see some thunderstorms developing, and these could give a lot of rain in a short space of time, some hail, that sort of thing as well. The exact track, position, timing of these will no doubt change between now and then because the forecast is very uncertain in that respect. So my best advice is to keep up to date with the latest forecast over the next few days or so. Now, after that, things get very uncertain. So just to show the next few days in a bit more detail, this is the Ensemble Forecast, where we run the same computer model multiple times with slight tweaks at the beginning to see how things evolve going forward in time. And that's why the spread gets bigger, because the uncertainty grows as you go forward into the future. But you can see this trend in the maximum temperature here for Reading, for example, increasing into next week. And at the moment, most models suggest the peak of the heat could well be on Wednesday into the low 30s. A couple of these members here are coming up close to 35, so it's not out of the question we could see temperatures as high as 34, 35 degrees around the middle of next week. But beyond that, a big spread. Most models, these lines all clustering on a downward trajectory here, would suggest it may turn somewhat cooler later in the week and on into the following weekend. But there are still a few models that keep a lot of the heat going until potentially the middle of next week, Tuesday, Wednesday time. So it's not guaranteed that the heat wave will be short-lived. Most models would suggest that, but there's just the outside chance that actually that heat could last through the weekend and on into next week, particularly across the southeast and eastern parts of England. On the rainfall front, we've got these 3 dry days here, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So if you're trying to make hay, you maybe have hay on the ground at the moment, there should be some good opportunity here for 3 dry days for things to really dry out, especially with those temperatures recovering and turning much hotter as we go into next week. Also fairly good perhaps for spraying with light winds, although the temperature aspect may be too high for some chemicals, for example. But you can see towards the middle of next week, we start to get some rain chances showing up here. Now, it's not guaranteed. Thunderstorms are localised. They don't affect everyone in equal measure. But there are some fairly spiky rain totals showing up here later on next week, just flagging up that potential for maybe some thundery downpours to develop in parts of the southeast and central parts of Britain through the course of the second half of next week. Now, the other thing to bear in mind is if we do get thunderstorms, the cloud associated with them will have an impact on the temperature, but equally the temperature also dictates where the thunderstorms develop. So they are both linked quite closely, and if one changes, the other will go with it as well. Beyond that, we continue to see further rain chances further ahead into the next 10 to 15 days. A lot of uncertainty, different models showing different amounts of rain, but either way, it's not looking like it's going to be a particularly prolonged dry spell, at least at this stage, as things currently stand. Looking at the pressure field, just to give you an idea of what's going on, again, that same trend, high pressure building in through the weekend into the early part of next week, which we showed you on that graphic earlier on. Then we get this downward trajectory here, which is where the low pressure starts to come in with maybe some thundery downpours developing during the middle part of next week. Now, the blue line on here isn't the average, which is what we normally show you. It's one computer model I've made blue just to highlight how it's handling things. So it's not guaranteed that this will happen, but it's a potential. And all it shows is this constant trough ridge pattern as you go forward in time, suggesting at times we will have ridges of high pressure coming in to bring settled weather and warm conditions potentially. Then we'll get these troughs coming in, bringing the risk of some showers. Now, the timing of these trough and ridges will vary, but it does suggest that the pattern will keep fluctuating between high pressure for a few days, low pressure for a few days, and then back to the high pressure situation once again. And what this graph actually shows, despite all the noise and the mess because of the uncertainty, a lot of these models show a similar pattern. It's just the timing of these ridges and troughs are different, which give rise to this very uncertain looking pattern looking forward in time. But it does look like we will continue in much of the same sort of similar weather we've had for the last couple of weeks or so, with the potential for dry, warm weather and then some slightly cooler days with the risk of rain around as well. So there's a lot of uncertainty about timing and placement of these showers and thunderstorms. But if you are trying to make hay, or if you're trying to spray, get the harvest in, that sort of thing, my best advice, given the fact this will change quite a bit, is to speak to our forecasters here in the office, because we are looking at this data every single day throughout the day. Our phone line, our forecast hotline, is open 6 till 6 throughout each and every day, including the weekends, and we can give you the advice that you may need, the information that you need in order to make those important decisions about what to do. So looking at Europe for the next 7 days or so, this is the rainfall anomaly. Where you see a lot of brown, that's where things are drier than average. And again, the dry weather prevailing across much of Central and indeed Western Europe as well. We're seeing a little bit of rain at the moment across the UK. Of course, this goes through until the middle of next week. After that, things start to turn a little bit more unsettled across the UK, with the potential for some rain or showers, so near or even slightly above average rainfall in places. And the same could be said across Europe as well. With the heat and humidity building, we could well see some fairly heavy downpours locally, not everywhere. So again, some places could well stay on the dry side. And this just highlights how hot it could get during the second half of next week into the beginning of the following week. Well, you can see how extensive the reds are here, the above average temperatures expected through that 7-day period. Now beyond that, the computer models continue to suggest that things may turn wetter than normal across Western Europe as we head into the beginning of August, as the jet stream starts to strengthen a little bit, the areas of low pressure come in, giving us some rain showers or thunderstorms at times as well. So it's not guaranteed this will happen, but it has been a trend in recent models for things to turn wetter across Western Europe for that early part of August. Doesn't last too long because, as you would expect, the ridge then starts to build back in again and things may turn drier in some places, other places seeing a few heavy downpours as well. So there's some uncertainty really over the next few weeks about the timing of various weather systems coming in. Overall, the next 7 days it will become very warm, if not hot, across some southeastern parts of the UK. Temperatures could get close to the mid-30s, potentially, depending on how much sunshine we get. There will be rain in the northwest during that time frame, and then perhaps more widely some thunderstorms possible midweek, but as is always the case, some places will miss them entirely and could stay dry. Then probably less hot towards next weekend with some showery rain coming in off the Atlantic, slightly cooler conditions potentially, but as I say, there are some models that keep the heat going on into the following week. And then as we head into August, that signal there for perhaps something a bit more unsettled developing, perhaps even some stronger winds with that as well. Something to keep an eye on really over the next 7 to 10 days or so. So that's how things are looking for the next 4 weeks or so. If you've got any questions, any feedback you'd like to send in, please do. You can email us or indeed use the hashtag WQFarmingForecast on Twitter. And if you're watching us on YouTube, feel free to leave us a comment below and don't forget to subscribe to our channel.